Hello everybody, this is JackB1024 and welcome to episode 32 of our Dynamic Factorio Let's Play series. So in this episode my plan is to first look at the issue that I've noticed with the memory cells up here. Then once that's done, we're going to look at adding a second train to our network. We'll add it just simply on it, we won't have a second station for it. And once we've got both trains set up, the plan is to create a drop-off zone here for red and green signs now that they're both being produced. And that should hopefully be enough for this episode. If that's not enough, we'll figure it out when we get to it. So, now the issue that I've noticed with our memory cells, if we look up here and we look at the iron plates and iron gears, you'll see that they're both at about 5,100 in this cell. Now if we look at our top numbered station, that's 26. 26 times 128 is about 3,500, and that should be the number we should see here, 3,200, 3,300. So yeah, that's about the right number, which means that none of these memory cell values should be above that value of 3,300. So the fact that we've got 5,000 here indicates that two stations requested iron gears or iron plates, and instead of having them on separate lines, like they should be, they've been merged to just one line. So that is an issue that we're going to have to solve. Now, I think the first thing we should do is actually get rid of both the iron gear and iron plate signals, because they're requests that we can't fill. If our train does think that it should go to, station 5,000, it's going to end up going to the wrong place and just doing the wrong stuff. So what we'll do to clear these is we'll just get our iron gear value, we'll put it into a pulse generator, and then we will negate the value of our pulse generator. So our pulse generator can just be a normal anything greater than 0, output it. For each thing, multiply it by negative 1, and output it. Do the output of that to both of them, output of the arithmetic to the decider. Our decider goes out to here. This one will negate all our inputs, and then we can hook that in to the memory cell. Not to there, to there. So now when we connect this, it'll get the iron gear value and it'll take it off the cell. Let's see if that works correctly. And it does. There's no more iron gear value on there. Now we'll disconnect it and we'll change it to clear our iron plates. Connect it back up. And the iron plates are also gone. And I'll just take down this setup that we had, because we don't need it anymore. Okay, now there's two positions that I think that that issue could have happened from. The first is that this memory cell bank itself might have an issue if two signals come in timed at just the correct difference. It might end up combining them. That's what I think could be the issue. The other issue is, if you remember, this circuit here is meant to be able to determine if two requests were made at the same time, and if so, it should delay about half of them to be done later. If that circuit doesn't actually work properly, well then, that could also have caused this issue. So, let's start. Just grab... we'll grab the whole block. We'll find a nice spot to just place down. I think this will do, or we could, yes. I'll actually put it in the middle of here because that makes it separated from everything else by quite a distance and by train tracks. And so it'll be easy for us to know what we need to get rid of when we're finished testing. So the good thing is that all of those ingredients are in our logistics network. So all our bots should be going off to do that. While they go off to do that, do I want to get a copy of this to be able to test it? I really actually hope it's not this, because this is an annoying thing if it is. actually in, here we go, this, yeah, this is the same circuit, so we'll actually place down 2 of these as well, and that way we can test out if there's an issue with this circuit here. If I place it here, it won't place down the big electric poles, which is good because I don't actually want them placed. And we can place another one, maybe here, and we'll get rid of that pole there. So now, how are we going to test the timing of this one? Actually, let's just make sure that we can build everything here. There we go. Okay, so how are we going to test our possible timing issue here? Well, I thought what we would do, we'll get maybe 10 of these. We'll have, hopefully I can do a single, should be able to do a single fine. Yep. Just running it through my head. So what we'll do is we'll make these all into buffers, so each thing plus 0 output it again. I thought that would be connected, but apparently not. Does that mean these large electric poles aren't actually connected? Probably not then. Okay, so we'll go... Can I make... Yeah, I'll just make a bunch of these. We'll connect all of these up with the green. And with the red wires, we'll connect that to this output. And we can now also connect it to any of these combinators. And depending on which one we connect it to, depends on what the delay between the 2 signals are. So if we connect it to this one, that's a 1 tick delay, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've got up to 8 ticks of a delay. Now let's just have a look at this circuit over here. Green line into this combinator is what it expects. Yeah, we'll just wire that straight in. So now it's just time to wait for the bots to finish their work. Okay, there we go, the bots are all done. So we'll just connect that in. And I think we'll do a quick sanity check that the whole circuit is working as we expect. So we'll just connect it to 1 and we'll just send through a signal of... Oh, I just thought of something that I forgot. We're going to need a pulse generator. Otherwise, instead of going just on 1 tick and several ticks later, it would go on... Let's get the right one. There we go. Go constantly until we turn it off, which is not what we want. So... Is there a pulse generator I can easily get to? Don't think so. So we'll just quickly do one again. I should blueprint this circuit things as we use it so much. Okay, there we go. Pulse generator done. So now if I send through a, let's just go copper plate. Let's just make it 100. At the top, we've got a value way above 100. Something is anything greater than 0 times -1. How do we get a value of 200,000? That is completely the wrong number. $200,000 again. Okay, this is very odd. Okay, so I found out what our issue is. If we look here, you'll notice this one's ticking and it's connected to the input or the memory side of this decider combinator here. And this arithmetic combinator's output is connected to both of these rows of combinators. We'll just come over here and I've copied it. So here's the same circuit. Arithmetic combinator connected to this line and the decider combinator's input is connected to this one. So hopefully with that fixed, we won't be getting values of 200,000. That looks better, and it is only 100. Now if we send through a second signal, it should wait in the second spot, which it does. So let's try sending 2 signals 1 tick apart. Okay, they took up the next 2 spots and they look fine. Let's give it 2 ticks this time. And again, that looks fine. Okay, let's give it 3 ticks. So 1, 2, 3. Also looks fine. 4. Ah, here we go. We found the issue. So, if they're 4 ticks apart, it looks like they combine together. But not always. That one must have just been combined together. Okay. So I've done a little bit of circuit debugging and managed to find a few things out. So I'll explain them here. So what happens is our input signal goes into here. It climbs up this set of decider combinators as long as red isn't 0. And red is only 0 when the red input into this is 0. And this is a 5-tick timer. So once every 5 ticks, instead of going to the next one, it basically is set up so that it'll pass it on and store it in the memory cell. Now, when the 2 requests were 4 ticks away, what I figure happens, I haven't definitely made sure of this, but this is what my best guess is that basically one of the requests goes in and is in the memory cell. And then as this memory cell is slowly creeping up, the next request comes in and basically lands in the same row. So say we've got a request in this row, it goes up to the next one and our next request comes in and adds to it. And that's why we get twice the number, or the 2 values added up if they're 4 ticks away from each other. Now the solution to this, we had already kind of solved it. That's the whole purpose of this row of decider combinators. Essentially, the quickest patch I put on, which actually works, is we have these decider combinators tell us what's currently in the queue waiting to be added. We get those inputs and we we multiply them by negative 200 million. And then this decider combinator only lets those that are positive through. Now, if I show you this setup, which is set up to basically constantly add signals to this, and if I didn't have this combinator up here on, so we'll go and turn this one off. There we go. Now we can actually add values to our memory cells. So when we add them, see them all adding in. That'll do. And you'll see that they're all 100, which is what we expect. Now the cost of doing that is that the second request of each of those pairs, the one that's 4 ticks behind, by the time it gets over here, it's being told not to actually get added because we've already got one waiting in the queue for that. And so it essentially gets stopped by this spot here, which is not good because that means the request just disappears into basically the void. So the next thing I'm going to look at is the way this was meant to be set up is that this green line here would connect to our main line green line here, which is the line that tells us how many networks are requesting this signal. So it would hopefully work with these things, basically pausing all of them until we found a free spot for it to come in. So I'm going to connect it up and I'm going to see if that is actually the case. So I'll be back in a sec. So I'm back and it's been probably about an hour. Yep. So I've managed to fix the circuit. So here's what I did. Firstly, if you remember our red and green lines from the main bus, they actually go and there's a bunch of processing before they even get added to these memory banks. And so if we need to be able to tell it within 4 ticks that it needs to not send another signal of that type, we can't actually wait till it's already over here because that's going to be more than 4 ticks later because it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 ticks is this thing's output before it even decides which memory bank to actually store our signal in. So There was actually another issue I noticed too. If we look at our main line, so we look at this one, you'll see that the red signal comes from this combinator here. So this decider combinator outputs the red signal, while the green signal comes from this combinator here, one tick later. Now that meant that our red and green signals, which this circuit is set up to assume that they come in at the same time, the red's actually one tick ahead. So firstly, the fix to that was just to put the red into this buffer here. Oh, where am I at? Here we go, cool. So the red goes into a buffer, and that way the red and green signals into these two combinators are actually in sync. The way that we stop two signals being within 4 ticks of each other is we basically just send a fake signal on the green line that we don't want to have happen. So our green line here goes into this buffer here. It's a 2-tick buffer. After the 2 ticks, we have these 2 decider combinators. They're both set the same. They basically just change us, so whatever we're getting in, we just output a 1 for that. And because we have 2 of them, that means we're actually going to be outputting 2, regardless of what we get in. The output of these 2 are then put into another buffer, and that buffer being 4 ticks later is the one that goes into our green line to make sure that there's no 2 green pulses 4 ticks from each other. Now there's a slight issue with that if we had it just set up like that, and that is that, imagine we got a green signal, iron plates, 1, 2, 3, 4 ticks later we send out a green signal of iron plates, and that means we'd get in a green signal of iron plates again, and 4 ticks later we'd send it out and get it in, and would have an infinite loop here. So the way we get past that, and it's one of the reasons why these decider combinators are 1 tick earlier. You could have put them a tick later, but I put them a tick earlier because as well as this buffer, you'll notice that they're connected to this combinator. Now this negates what they're outputting, and it on the red line goes to the same input combinator. And so what it does is if we get green on the green signal, let's say we get iron plates, 1, 2, 3, 4 ticks later, we have on the green signal from this combinator, we have iron plates, but on the red signal from this combinator, we have negative iron plates. Because they get added on this combinator, that means this one doesn't actually see what the previous ticks output was, because it basically gets rid of that feedback. It diminishes it. So that way, that's how that circuit works. Now, my testing circuit. Let's have a look at it. So we've got these 2 combinators. They're set up so that when red is 0, they output their inputs. And I've got these 2 constant combinators, one with 257 and one with 513. They need to be greater than 128 because that's what part of this circuit checks. They also need to not have the 64-bit set because this is the... I put this down as the destination, which doesn't have the 64-bit set. And so that's why I set those numbers there. This combinator just has red signal 1, so whenever I turn this combinator off, these 2 output. We then have 2 pulse generators, one for the left, one for the right. The right one goes to this circuit, and the left one goes to this circuit. Now at first, for the left one, it goes to a 4-tick buffer, and so that's how we know it's exactly 4 ticks away. Now we can disconnect the red line from this, and if we connect it straight to our output here, we actually have them both sending at the same tick, which was useful for diagnosing the fact that without this combinator here delaying the red line by a tick, we actually had a bug. So if we zoom out, if I turn off this combinator, both lines will try to send the same message, their message in the same tick, which means that they'll go into the delay sequence, and then one will send it and then the other will send it. So there you go, you can see the 2 messages there, and 257 and 513, which is the order we expect because we expect them to be allowed through from the lowest to the highest. So if we just do that again, just to make sure it definitely works, yep, there we go again, and they're there again. Okay, so we'll disable that. And so that means that when 2 signals are coming through in the same tick, they work. Now let's try 4 ticks later. So if it's 4 ticks later, the second signal did not go through. It did that time though. Okay, so I'm back for, what is it, a third or a fourth time. So what I'd done is I'd actually connected the red line from this combinator down, which if we look over at our circuits over here, it's not there. I was actually testing something out, and that was the cause of the issue. So there's our two. There they go again, and again, and again. You can send it a few more times. So this time it should still be 257 then 513, which is what we are seeing. Let's actually try switching these around. So now that's 513, 257. We should see 513, 257. Yep. So that is what I expected. And again, if we lastly just connect this back to where they send them at the same time, this time we should see 257, 513. Yep. So this one always is getting, well, let's say that again. So when they're sending at the same time, the lower value is always going through. When one is sent 4 ticks behind the other, they're both going through, they're not getting merged, and the one that's sent first is this one, which is before, the one that's triggered first, which is what we expect to see. So we can apply these few little patches to our circuit, and we will have, I don't need you really. Let's see where's a good spot to, yeah, I can probably just paste it right here. Why is that naughty? Wait. I expected that to look exactly the same. Just take this and we'll figure out where this should go. Okay, so we can't just paste it in because there's stuff in the way. Let's paste it down here. Actually, I'll keep that as a big electric pole. So once all our robots have done that, that should be this whole problem solved. So let's also dismantle all of this. And I'll be back once this is all done. And we're back. So we've moved over to using this new circuit, which has the 4 tick delay and the 1 tick delay on the red input. So that should be that all fixed up. Now, just when I thought I was done with circuits for today, I have noticed, if you notice, we've got a destination request for copper plates to 1.9K, which is this station here. Now this station should request them if there's less than 6,000. And if we look at the poll here, we can see that there's 86,000. Now I don't know about you, but last time I checked, 86,000 is a lot more than 6. So we really should not have a request for this station. And this is 2.4K. Where's the request for them? Must be this one. It is. Okay, that doesn't matter. That is fine then. Good. Still want to know why this one has so many copper plates. It's just weird. But we don't have to worry about that. So what we will do instead is we will get a second train onto this line. So let's just first go and pick up all the stuff we need to craft it. And then we can that is very inconvenient. Okay, we can craft it and then we can discuss how we're going to lay it out while it's crafting. So we want 1 locomotive. How many carriages? It's 6. Need some fuel for our car. And let's go and get this iron plates we need for the next few. Wagons. Okay, we've got everything and it's all crafting, that's all good. Let's go back to the train depot and we'll figure out how to lay this one in. So eventually what I want is let's just place this somewhere so I can show it. So I'd want stops like this, all parallel to each other. And then the train can be in any of them, and it can figure out where the trains are, which trains there are, and send them out. But that's going to require some more circuits, and I don't want to do circuits right this instant. So instead, what I think we'll do, how tight can I get that? I want something like this, where we basically just use the internal space of this to buffer the next train. That should do. Now it looks great. That way one train can be waiting here around the corner of it, then we can have a second one here and maybe even a third. Now we just have to wait for our robots to get back. And we're back. So let's disconnect this part of the track now that we have a new section of track and promptly break the connection. Okay, we will put our second train. Let's see, so 1, 2, 3, yeah, you'll definitely fit in there. Second train can wait there. And we'll put the third one up here. Ooh, trains have 2 locomotives, don't they? Actually, how are we going for fuel too? 33. We should think about refueling that train very soon. Build a locomotive. I already did that. Okay, there we go. Now it needs... Yep, you just tick that and it gets all the same schedule, which is so nice. That'd be an annoying schedule to have to actually set. Let's give you half the fuel and we'll give you half the fuel. Now, we already have a bunch of different places with supply, a bunch of places with demands. It looks like our iron ore mine's the next one to go to, so let's see if this works. Should wait here, should be told to go somewhere. If we check this one, this is that train 222, I'm not sure how it determines those numbers, is going to go to 575 once it's done, which I believe is the iron smelter. And yeah, it says it's going to go to 4, and 4 is indeed the iron furnace. So there we go, we have a second train up and running. I actually think we have enough places with demand for trains that we can even get a third train up and running. So let's go and set that up. And mainly iron plates is what I'm missing. And once we have this third train up and running, the next thing we'll need to do is we will need to create our 2 train stops for our green and red signs. I believe we've already got a supply request for red signs, so we've already got someone that can give it to us, which is more the production bay for it. Don't think there's a demand for it yet. Well, there can't be because there's no one that accepts it yet. And I was going to pick up some more fuel, but forgot to do that. Now the only downside with this means there will be 3 times as many trains to run me over. So you're going to have to be even more careful. That should be enough fuel. Yep. We got the iron ore alert, which told us that our iron ore train was at the correct spot. Though it's not really an iron ore train because our trains don't really have a designated station that they go to. They just go to whichever one they need to go to. So you're on the dynamic line. Give you some fuel as well. Now we just need to wait for all our train cars to be made. So yeah, we'll put our science bays down here. We can probably actually copy this setup here. Let me just think if there's any obvious reason I can think of why that wouldn't work. Can't think of any. It'd be kind of an annoying setup for it, because the way the exit for them is not the nicest, how it's all laid out, but off you go. Where's this train going to go? Probably also to the iron mine, I would know. That looks like it's going to the copper mine, with the next train set to go and pick up copper plates, which I think is the train coming in right now. So this one should be off to get copper plates. Let's just check that it goes to the right spot. And yes, it does. Cool. We now have 3 trains on our system, and it's working fine. Okay, now there's way too many trees. Here we go. Get rid of them all. While the construction robots go and do that, I'm going to get a blueprint of this station. See, the issue with these stations is the output exit line doesn't really merge into our network nicely. Could make it loop back towards it. In fact, I might do that. It might just be the easiest way to do this. That should be everything we should need. So we need 1 for red, and it looks like we don't have enough room. That is very inconvenient. It's very close. What's here? Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to build it here. Even though there's not enough room, we'll just move some stuff around to make room. Now, I'm not sure how long this episode's gone on for. It's apparently gone for an hour 45, according to OBS, but that's with a lot of cutting, so I think I'll actually put another cut in here, and we'll come back once these 2 stations are set up. And as the 47th hour of this game starts, we have our red and green science bays set up. Now, a few things that happened while I was setting all that up. I emptied this train and then it came back to this spot. Now, if you remember, I think it was episode 29 when we were setting these all up. I tested what would happen if a train left a spot that it didn't actually need a request for. And we discovered that it would send off a new request for it. So I think that's what's happening here, is that even though this train doesn't need to come here, it arrives here, and then when it leaves, a new request comes in for this spot. So we're going to have to look at that. Other things that happened, we had our first train pick up all of the copper cables, or it came here to pick them all up, but again, I think it was episode 29, we found out that Our production bay blueprint has an issue where the red output from these combinators isn't connected to this big electric pole. And that was the case, so it was just sitting here, and I had to connect it up and manually make it do that. And I had to manually give it its next destination, and I thought I told it to go here, which is where its next destination is, but it seems that it instead actually went to our red science bay. So this was all filled with copper wires. In fact, I think, yes, there's still a few there. I picked up most of them, but a few must have slipped through, so that was fun. Other than that, we've got our red science bay here, we've got our green science bay here. They're both set up to require 24,000 of their respective packs. This would be number 28 and this is number 27, so that's the correct station numbers for them. But I believe they both were set up at such a time that they basically think they've already sent off their request when they haven't, which is why we have no trains currently wanting to come here. There is an issue with our train network, but we can set that up later, or fix that up later. And that 249 million train destination thing is here again, which we're also going to have to look at. But let us at least get this set up so that we get a train of red science coming through. So we can say, yes, this is the first set of science packs. Why did that not send off? Because that's the wrong bank. This is where we want to be. Okay, cool. That's better. So this train should now be going to production bay 2 loader, which is our red science bay. And it's going to go and pick up all our red science. And then we're going to see it drop it all off. This is the first lot of, and let me guess, this is the same bug again. Yeah, it is. Okay. I'll be right back again. Where's my car? Okay, so there we go. Now the train's actually filling up with red science. Now the way I fix this up so that we'd have the minimum amount of interruptions is, if you remember, if we just connected the red here, as we saw 2 episodes ago, the train would leave because it's already been inactive here for over 5 seconds. So what I did is I disconnected the green signal here so it wouldn't get the destination signal, which is 27. Let's check. 27 is correct, and it is. That is good. So we disconnected the signal for the destination. I then came up here and I connected the red wire in, which told it to start filling up all the carriages. And once it started doing that, I could come back down and reconnect that wire, as it's now not inactive. So once this train has filled up with a lot of red science, it will be on its way to our red science drop-off. So let us go and beat it over there. So our red science train hasn't left yet, and it's actually now getting loaded with the science packs that we're just making, which should never be the case because we should always have a large enough buffer. Well, this is something that I just figured out, that science packs stack to 200. I thought they stacked to 100. I generally don't actually store them anywhere. I just put them straight on belts and straight into where they go. So we don't actually have enough science packs to fill up a whole train yet. But that's fine. I'll just send this train on its way in a second. First things I want to say is, if you remember, we have this extra signal on our destination saying train destination of about 294 million. I think I figured out where that comes from. If we look at our train stop here, you'll notice that the output of this combinator goes on the green line into this, which is the same line that we use to actually tell us what this train has stored in it. And that goes up into our combinators up here. If I can just find the right line, it's this one, which doesn't feel to me like it's the one that it should be to. But that is where it connects to. And it goes into this combinator here. Oh yeah, that's right. So it goes into this combinator here, which goes into this circuit, which decides whether or not we need to request something. Or say got a delivery. So I think that's where it's coming from. It's coming from that circuit there. So my plans are to change this to a red wire, then we don't have any crosstalk between those two wires. Was there anything else between the episodes before we go and send our train on its way? Yes, there was. Let me just find the right station. I think it's this one. Yep, that's right. You may notice this stop has not been given any iron plates, which I believe is what it needs. Yes, even though that says iron gears, I need to fix that. It's got no iron plates, even though that's what it needs. Well, that's because, as you remember at the start of the episode, we cleared those iron plate and iron gear requests, and we need to get them back. So I'll be doing that between the episodes. But while we wait, what we can do, we should be able to tell it that it should just generally go to where it needs to go to next anyway, even if we told it to go to a different station. But that train is on its way. Let's see if we can beat it. Yep, just. And there we go. Red signs being unloaded to our base. Even though it doesn't actually go anywhere yet. I'll need to lay a bunch of spaghetti to get it going up here, but I'll do that later. As for this, we've got our red signs delivered. This is the first signs made with our production bays, with our trains that don't have a real schedule. They just go where they're needed to drop stuff off where it's needed. So there we go. Until tomorrow, this is Jack B1024 signing off. Have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow.